You ever discover that you have a shared interest with your significant other that came as a surprise, or if it didn't, once you discovered it, it like completely bonded you in a way that was like, unforeseen. Okay, so oftentimes, as we all know, sometimes we don't recognize what was going down in those good old days, in this case, toy collecting, and until it resurfaces later in life and how it resurfaces, in what ways, and all that. Then we sort of kind of like sometimes drift away from it with a completely different understanding of what the obsessions or collections were all about. So our shared explosion, my husband and I, was again toys. I was obsessed with toys. I had toys galore. He had this same obsession, the same collections, except that his, being a master sergeant first class, was more along the lines of Army guys. And me, it was more along the lines of, yes, Barbies, weird action figures, surreal plushies, and that. So that was me. That was him. Decades, childhood. But then this shared experience from two corners of the world, toy-wise, sort of like came together. And then my husband and I became obsessed, meaning that we would travel to Toys R Us, believe it or not, you guys, sometimes daily or every other day. There was like this sort of unspoken mandatory trip to Toys R Us, which had everything, but that didn't exclude all of the collector shops that had the Space 1999 toy boxes and command centers and accessories and action figures and, oh my God, Freaky Barbie and whatever. And it didn't help that I worked through Mattel, which had a ground floor employee store that had all of these freaky ass Barbies that never made it to the shelf and other things. So now this obsession between my husband and I becomes a playground for us, and it becomes very technical. Like, we start needing things from craft stores to do this, that, and the other. And I hate to say it, but these Toys R Us discoveries began to become something a bit sinister, for lack of a much better word, sort of a dark obsession towards the end. And that kind of shocked us, like not outwardly, but sort of like this collective surprise. Because, well, so I guess in these years later, with this shared obsession, which I'll get into in more detail, we realized that really none of this was about toys to begin with. It was making sense for us out of a childhood